Steve.
Hi, Tom.
Welcome.
Thank you.
This is Steve from ColorTown. ColorTown at Newmarket. You guys represent C2 Paint, don't you?
We do.
And here I have the C2 palette fan. This is incredible. How many colors are in this thing?
There are 496 colors, Tom.
Amazing. You know, we're just at the stage now where we're picking colors within the Home Edition project here. We've finished the drywalling, all the boarding, the mudding, the sanding. Still a bit of dust hanging around the place, but it's time to pick the colors. And with 496 colors, Steve, that's an awful lot of choice.
Well, it is, but this is a very hard-working palette, and about 80% of that palette is used on a regular basis.
Now, I mean, we've been going through this process here of just trying to decide, you know, which ones to use, and I mean, it's a bit of a daunting process. I mean, for us, I know that within this space here, we have a few elements that we're working with. We've got some hardwood flooring, we've got some beam work, some brickwork that's in, especially this room here, are some hard items that we need to kind of complement.
Well, the first thing you would have to consider, Tom, is your lighting, and you have a great bit of natural lighting in this space. So that's wonderful. That will really enhance the colors and make the choice a little easier. The other thing is your fixed materials, what you just mentioned. We're probably going to stick with more of a timeless classic palette, but that does not mean beige. And that's why it's very important to select the color in your actual space and not at the store. Quite often we will do the initial process at the store, but you have to get the samples out to the space that it's going to be applied.
So then, within this space here, this master bedroom, I know that we've been leaning more towards, funny, you mentioned beige. We've been looking at some browns, so certainly not beige. I know the color we were kind of interested in was 371, which is a color called Cafe Latte. Who names these colors?
Actually, Tom, a lot of our store owners name the colors, and a lot of our customers, oddly enough.
Really?
Yes.
Really? And I figure there's one person that had that job, just sitting there all day looking at these.
Yeah, we have parties to do this.
Cafe Latte kind of looks like something you could pick up at Starbucks or Tim Hortons.
Yes, yes, aptly named.
So looking at something like that, a color that gives a bit of drama within the space, we felt that it was a color that complemented and yet contrasted a bit with the beamwork. So this color here, now this is in the fan deck, that's about 2 inches by 1 inch tall that we're seeing here on the wall. It's kind of difficult to get a sense of what that color really...
It is. Yeah, this is really a quick reference tool.
Now, having said that, this feels like real paint on this.
It is. I'm glad you mentioned that. All of our samples are made from actual C2 paint, the same paint you purchase for your job.
As I said, this is about 2 inches by 1 inch. Is there a way to get kind of a feel of what that looks in something bigger?
Absolutely. We have an architectural kit, we call it, or a designer kit. This is used extensively in the design community by specifiers.
Okay.
If you would hold that, please. I'll just quickly leaf through and find your color of choice. Cafe Latte. And that gives you a generous strip of the color for a little bit better look, a little bit better feel for the color.
So that's more like what, about 6 inches by 3 inches, something like that?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned architects and designers. C2 works with a lot of architects and designers?
We do. We have a very good relationship with designers, decorators, architects, people that are particularly sensitive to color. Okay,
so that's a great way then, a great little kit you've got here for
Thank you.
For the designers to work out in the field with. So once we've looked at Cafe Latte on the wall and that size, then what's really the next step then to find out if indeed this is the color we want on the wall?
Right, well we have a couple of options, and typically paint chips are always too small, they always have been, and that's been our biggest complaint from our clients.
Okay.
So we did take it a step further.
Okay.
And we come up with what we call the ultimate paint chip.
Oh, that's a paint chip.
That's a paint chip. That's
a paint chip.
18 inches by 24 inches, 3 square feet of the same type of color swatch that you have in your fan deck or in your architectural kit.
Now, whereas we started off in our color choice with a few different colors, and I know even for us, we were looking at color give or take of that. I think that was 371. We were looking at 370, Clydesdale, and give or take. You know, you put a few of those up. I guess we could also try a few of these colors on the wall here,
right?
And see how they feel.
Yeah, all 496 colors are available in the Ultimate Paint Chip. We also have a wet sampling program, which really is the final step.
Okay.
It's not only a color standard, it's also to make sure the product meets specification, performs, and is going to look right on your surface.
Well, Steve, it looks like we've got paint, we've got a roller, and the sample board here. Looks like we're about ready to paint.
Right. Well, basically what we've got, Tom, is a scaled down version of what you're going to be doing on the entire surface.
Right.
So we're going to put some paint to the wall, so to speak. You get a good feel of the product, how it's going to roll out, how it's going to cover. This product is covering very well. I think you're going to be happy with it.
Now, I've also heard that there is a few different ways of painting in terms of the number of coats, in terms of primer. And I've heard of, one coverage paint, or even paints that require no primer. Well, what's the best way to go about using this?
Right, well, those products do have their place, but what you have here is new construction. You've got a bare substrate, bare drywall with your joints. We're going to put a primer on this entire surface to give you a uniform sealed surface to work on top.
Okay. Because we have the drywall, as you mentioned, and the joints, those have different textures right now.
Right.
When you prime that, it gives it a one uniform texture. Is that
That's
the
right.
idea?
Right. Different textures, different absorption rates, and that could lead to a variation in not only the finish or the sheen of the product, but also the color.
Okay. So rule of thumb is primer and 2 coats.
On new construction.
On new
that is the rule
construction.
of thumb.
All right. So we've done one coat, excuse me, on this board here, and it looks like it's covered fairly nicely. We'll let that dry and then do a second coat on it?
Sure, that would typically be for an actual sampling, and then what we've created is a liquid standard for your job. This, you know exactly what you're getting moving forward.
So Steve, one of the other places in this room here that we felt we could do some accent color is this tub area here. The audacious color just jumped right off the palette fan. And so that's what this is here. Now, do we need to handle painting a deep color like that a little differently?
We do. The deep colors pose a unique problem in that typically they're very transparent and they take multiple coats. So what we've developed at C2 is our ACS, or our Accent Color System Primer.
Okay. So this is actually primer on here that we're looking at.
This is a tinted primer specifically formulated for Audacious, which was your color of choice in this area.
Okay. So how does that look then when it goes on? I mean, this is going to give us a different feel?
Right. The primers are totally different colors. They're unique to the specific top coat color. This happens to be the primer for Audacious that I've applied previously. We're then going to achieve the finish color with 2 coats of the finished paint. So in fact, it's the same process as the rest of the area. 1 coat of primer, 2 coats of paint.
So we're going to put this coat on while the cafe latte is drying. And going over this tinted primer.
Just put it on nice and even. It's a little bit different working with darker colors, particularly the accents, the reds, the yellows, the oranges. But this primer system removes a lot of the paint.
So when somebody orders this color, do they need to remember to order the primer separately, or you'll specify that at the time?
On our color samples, we have 53 colors out of our 496 that pose a special problem. We designate those with a insignia on the color. It's a little dagger.
Okay.
And also, the staff of any of our stores will advise you, even in the sampling process. This primer is also available in the sampler size. So for example, if you're considering that type of color on a big surface, you might want to sample it first just to see what you're in for. And as you can see, there's a huge difference where it went over the primer and over the white surface.
So if we didn't use this tinted primer in this case, we'd have to do many more multiple
coats, and because the color has been formulated with the primer, you probably wouldn't achieve, even with multiple coats, the proper color.
Okay.
And too much paint is not a good thing.
That's great. Well, let's get back to the cafe latte.
Sounds good. There you are.
So we've done our second coat of paint on this sample here, and it's looking great, Steve. I mean, if we take the color chip here, the ultimate color chip, and put that up against it, I mean, it's almost dry, and it's almost bang on. I mean, and I know it's going to get even closer as it.
It's going to dry in, and you'll see very little difference.
Amazing. And so that really then speaks to the consistency of the color in your production.
Right, right. Very, very consistent both in product and in color. And the product is covered very well. It's a nice uniform finish. I think it's going to work out quite well for you.
The paint itself then, we've talked a bit about some of the quality attributes of the paint. You call your C2 Lovo, that's what this paint is here.
Correct.
What does the Lovo mean?
Lovo means low VOC, which is volatile organic compounds, which is basically emissions, greenhouse gases.
Okay. What does that mean? What does that mean for the homeowner in choosing a low VOC product?
Well, basically VOC is the component of the product that vaporizes into the atmosphere. It's the carbon emissions. With the Lovo product, for example, we have cut those emissions in half.
Okay.
So not only is it more gentle on the environment, it's also a healthier environment for the people doing the work, especially if you have young children, pets, family, elderly people.
Okay. So the Lovo product of yours compared to other companies' Lovo products?
There are regulations that regulate how much VOC you can have to call a product low VOC.
Okay.
Ours exceed those regulations, our products do. The nice thing about Lovo is you don't sacrifice quality of product or the great color range. Some of the other low VOC products available on the market sacrifice either or both. Because
In getting to that Lovo standard, they're taking out an aspect of the paint itself that it needed to get the color.
Yes, typically. The first wave of low VOC products were conventional products that were just modified to meet regulations. Products like Lovo and their counterparts were actually developed from the ground up. They were developed as a low VOC product with the latest technologies. The C2 paint is what we call a very high solid product, and it's quite simply what that means. Solids are what you're left with on the surface. Your solvents, typically the water and that little bit of VOC, evaporates and leaves you with your solids. That's what's left on the surface.
Okay.
C2 products are very high solid, which means you get excellent coverage, good hiding, nice uniform finish. They apply easily. Our unique tinting system gives you that wonderful range of colors with this depth and subtle undertones that you don't get from a conventional palette.
And then of course there's the low VOC option.
Right, the low VOC product, Lovo, which was our trade name for our low VOC product, meets the toughest environmental regulations in the world. This product can be sold in Southern California.
So taken all together, it's about quality as well as the environment and the green side of things.
Right, it's a balance. We really didn't want to sacrifice color, number one. We didn't want to sacrifice performance because we already had a very good performing product line. The Lovo product meets or exceeds the products that were already on the market with the additional benefit of the low VOC.
The cafe latte is looking great on the wall here. I know it's going to have a wonderful warm feeling in this space here. It's been great working with you, Steve, and you know, we're going to come back and look at this again when it's all done and all painted, and we'll look forward to talking to you then.
Thank you, Tom. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.